Welcome back. It's still on the president's speech. We've got two gentlemen joining us again this time. We've got Mr. Dennis Amachree, who is a former assistant director with the SSS, joins us from Port Harcourt. We also do have Chief John Nwodo, who is the President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo and former Minister of Information. Good morning, sir, and thank you both for joining us today on the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Amachree. Well, having listened to the NSA, Mr. Nwodo, many expected perhaps more of that from as they looked forward to the president's speech in terms of the tonality. But they got a speech, but they say we didn't get the kind of speech we wanted or we were looking at to get, which raises questions as to what was the mindset behind this speech? Was it a military and the democratic one? What percentage? Because, I mean, that was the NSA. You expect a security mindset. But the speech they got, they thought, whoa, this had a lot more of veiled threat in this speech, and they thought, big question mark. What do you think of the speech?
I think we've gone through this many, many times. The NSA should have addressed it the way that it should be. We've always talked about the military incursion into internal security. And I think the military themselves should start working towards, their image, because anytime they bring out themselves, it's a problem. Why not separate them properly? And then, of course, there are laws. When we looked at even the United States, the military cannot just come into internal security. There are laws, Insurrection Act that have been passed before the president is empowered to even call them in. So the speech is basically designed to, placate the public, because a lot of people died. A lot of people died, and the parents are all expectant to see what the president will say to them. The military coming out to say that it might be a photoshopping or they are going to investigate, I think it's too late. Because if somebody is actually wearing a military uniform and then hanging around somewhere or doing certain things, we expect that the military down the street should have mobilized some people and gone down there to find out who is doing this thing. It is not a matter of going back to investigate anymore. I was seeing about 7.62 rifle cartridge that were picked at that scene. Nobody uses that, not even AK-47. So those are military-grade ammo. So I think there is a lot to do about it. Let's not whitewash this, because this is rubbing off on the soul of this country.
Well, Chief Nwodo, the president's speech did equally mention some of the unfortunate incidents that played out in Lagos, including that of the Oba's Palace. But yes, you've been quoted in the dailies about some of those as well. But give us your impression about that speech. How does it resonate with you in context of those areas which you spoke about previously?
I felt quite disappointed with that speech. The country is very aggrieved, extremely aggrieved. The youths are the moral conscience of a nation. They are all we work for. They represent our future. They are the tabula rasa, the clean slate on which you build the future of a society. Each one of us, when we were young, we dared government about things that were not well in the society. General Babangida, Major General Barry himself, as a soldier, as a young man, led coups in this country because he was outraged by the corruption and the social perversions in our society. What these children are doing are no different from what he did when he was much younger. And the children are a barometer for us to gauge how well we are doing in society. I expected his speech to be more paternal, to be more understanding of the ingredients of frustration in the minds of these people. And this time around, we didn't just have youths who were unemployed, who were uneducated, We had them from all cadre of professions in our country. And they did so well in the early stages of their protests to be civil, to be well-behaved, to be articulate and reasonable. Now, the fact that miscreants got on the way is also a failure of our security. How many times shall we talk about this? How much money do we vote to security? How much is security accountable for how it spends that money? That's part of the reason that these children are in the streets. In every other country of the magnitude of our economic potential, in all those streets, there were miscreants. There will be cameras. We would have had the pictures of those who infiltrated the genuine youths and who were out for vandalization. They would have all been picked up now. They would have all been in court. You don't tell us you arrested people, but nobody knows where they are being charged. Nobody knows the offenses that are charged for.
But Chief, you know, yes, you spoke about the young people who they turned out initially they were genuine in the way they conducted themselves as it went on. But the protests, what we saw in Iju-Ishaga area of Lagos, people trying to talk ethnic tribes, nationalities against themselves, the scenario in Oba's Palace also degenerating. Now, doesn't this speech where he now says, look, security agencies have got to get back immediately. Now, to that extent, isn't that good to hear? Because any further attempts for people who try to, you know, get ethnicities against them, turn ethnicity against themselves, wouldn't this in any way help in calming frayed nerves?
Well, let me just address the issue of ethnicity. There is a group called Apopo Oduduwa ACOA, which went online and accused the Igbos of being responsible for some of the outrages that occurred in Lagos. And there have been a lot of spiral revenges, especially in Igbo-owned shops in Adeniro Gunsaya, and threats of further violence against Igbos in Lagos. I've had discussions with Chief Adebanjo and Yinka Odumakin, and I'm very happy that Afenifere has made this speech, issued a release signed by Adeferati, and the release has given us reassurance that the Yoruba leadership has not bought the propaganda that Igbos were responsible for some of this destruction. Here again is an attempt by a group of people to capsize the aims and objectives and such process, and to infuse some kind of tribal insinuations and make people of different ethnic origins in the country to begin to have a feud that never existed. In Abuja, you could see how car garages of Igbos were burnt with reckless abandon, and how some Muslim fundamentalists came in with machetes and what have you, and none was arrested. The point I'm making is that there is a failure of security. If miscreants invaded this protest, they ought to be arrested, they ought to be prosecuted. And our security has capacity for gathering intelligence of their preparation and of monitoring their intervention discreetly in order to be able to arrest them with ease. I'm sure that Dennis understands what I'm talking about. So the speech from a head of state who's been in the military, who's had the best world-class military training, did not give me enough justification that it was intended to assuage our anxieties about the extant issues that are impacting on this unrest.
Okay, Chief, let me bring in Mr. Amachree back on this, because the security agencies, sometimes you wonder, are they really between the rock and the hard place, or they're just doing what the authorities require them to do? Because the populace, to them, it appears as though it's us and them. It appears as though security agencies are out there to protect the political class. And then the images that we saw as a result of this protest is not what should be in any society where policemen, we saw mob action against policemen who are supposed to be protecting us even from ourselves. But look, where did we even get this wrong? How do we correct some of these things? Is it that the mindsets of the police, do we need to change the laws in terms of their conduct? How do we get this sorted and moving forward?
You can see that the protest was actually invaded by miscreants. In fact, the president was talking about it, that those people who are out there to, infiltrate the ranks of the protesters. But this is also a failure whereby, you see, there is this protest procedure where you have the police stay around. I saw even some policemen who were sitting down in their cars, and the protesters were giving them food, drinks, and everything, But where did we go wrong? Where these infiltrators came in and then started destroying things. I saw videos of miscreants breaking down street lights. And what does that mean? Are they part of the protesters? I don't think so. And then why are they not arrested? Because we just can't allow this to happen. Maybe we just have to look at the structure again. The police itself has to be restructured. Because what is all this all about is because people feel that the police has never been the friends of Nigerians. When they were created to take care of the colonialists, and now we are back to the new orgas who are the politicians. And of course, you have a whole unit, the Mopol in this country is dedicated to escorting politicians, local government chairmen, when they are supposed to be out there doing their work. I'm very happy that the IGP has withdrawn them.
Yeah,
but they are supposed to.
So, but Mr. Amachree, that some issues that played out here, because when the protest started, I mean, the way it went about, many thought, okay.
On insecurity, we are giving prominence there. But today, you see the recruitment pattern. You see how people are recruited without recourse to what they scored in the examinations. The quality of management is a matter of patronage of ethnic origins. Look at our admission into federal secondary schools and universities. Look at the quota system that has completely erased competence and standards in our examinations. This is what is playing out here. So if we restructure, every region will bring out its best. If they have to donate people to national structures, they will donate the best they have to national structures. And we will be in the international competition.
All right, Mr. Amachree, what do you think?
Well, I think we have to go back to basics. We have to go back to basics and then, of course, reorient our people to be patriotic. Because right now, the country is so divided among so many fault lines, tribalistic situation, ethnicity, nepotism, and all the rest. And I remember very well when I joined the NSO at that time, we were all, the same number of people were employed from each state of the Federation. And today we remain brothers and sisters. And then, of course, we never saw ourselves as Hausa, Nupe, Igbo, or Kalabari, But the thing is that today, the caution, I think in a way, politics has come into the whole play whereby people don't see themselves as
How do we get security agencies off the hands in terms of using security agencies as pawns? How do we stop politicians from turning them against the citizens?
The only way we can do that is to allow the security agencies, including the police, to be independent. If you go to Decree 19, the one that formed the SSS, you will find out that at the end of the objectives, it is made to be under the presidency. Any other duties that the president might order. That's why you have it as Department of State Services. It's a department of the presidency.
Okay.
The police is the same.
Let me wind down.
Chief said, just like Chief said, if you go down to state policing, the people will vote in the police chiefs.
Let me ask you,
appointing them.
As we close on this one, as a former intelligence person, I mean, you still have all the training, even though you left the service. What do you see happening with the, albeit peaceful protesters, those who were well-intended, put differently, with the protests, in light of the president's speech?
I think the president supports it. And, of course, the protests have started. At the end of the day, from all the protests I've seen, including labor protests, they all end up on the table, where people have to sit down and dialogue and agree on something. Right now we have a group, you say there are no leaders, but, we're having objectives. So let them come, get themselves together. The protesters should get themselves together. And then, of course, government should be able to set up structures where they could have a fusion in deciding the future that we go to.
All right, then. But Mr. Amachree, we also remember that the president did welcome the protesters. He did say he accepted the demands in the first instance, the 5 points. As we move forward, SARS was disbanded until Lekki happened. We're not saying that the same thing will happen, but it's just there. So who knows?
He has accepted, but we should have some factual things happening.
All right.
Something happened. Yeah.
All right, then. Mr. Dennis Amachree, former Assistant Director with the SSS, as well as Chief John Nwodo, President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, and former Minister of Information. Thank you, gentlemen, for talking to us today.